The opioid crisis has proven itself to be widespread throughout the U.S. as rising overdose deaths have become a big concern in the St. Joe community. Tonight, we hear from one local organization about their efforts to raise awareness of the problem and how anyone struggling with addiction can get the right care.
The opioid crisis has affected the entire country, St. Joe included. After a new record high in overdose deaths, the crisis has become an even bigger concern.
We know for a fact that if an individual goes out to Mosaic today or any ER in this country after an overdose, their odds of death in the next month is 5%. Their odds of death in the next year is 10%.
One local organization, the St. Colby Puckett Center for Healing, tries to raise awareness of the issue and its prevalence in our area while offering help to people with opioid addictions.
Ultimately, the patients who are suffering with this disease in our community, it's not an individual disease. It affects the community, it affects their children, it affects their loved ones who care about them.
Co-founder Dr. Dustin Smith says the opioid issue goes even further into the problem of not every person who uses opioids has insurance.
90% of individuals in our country, and approximately the same number in St. Joe, are struggling with addiction and don't get access to that care because they don't have insurance.
One of the center's co-founders was inspired to open the center after his own son's death from an overdose. Dr. Smith says the time frame from asking for help and getting the right care immediately is critical.
So that's the issue. When somebody is suffering with withdrawal, when somebody is sick or after a recent overdose, they have to be provided access to care rapidly. And so that's what we have been striving to do since we opened our facility.
Dr. Smith says if you are struggling with addiction, you have to have the courage to tell a loved one or a healthcare professional.
If that individual is listening tonight and is struggling with an issue, I would encourage them to be brave enough to discuss it with a loved one or discuss it with a medical professional and to seek out care.
And if you are worried that someone you know might be living with an addiction, he says you have to speak to them about it with heartfelt concern.
Just identifying from a place of concern. A lot of times in the past, addiction was brought up in a very accusatory way. And the reality is if we can approach people in a way with empathy and care, that they then understand that the individual who is reaching out to them is there to try to help get them care and get them well.
Dr. Smith adds that the center does have free Narcan to be used in the event of an overdose. He says it can cost you more than $100 if you buy it at a pharmacy without insurance.